Hello, Internet world. Welcome to another coding session, or today, an exploration session. Today with myself, Adrian, and Vilva. He's going to be showing us some of the ways you can use Redwood.js with Hasura as your backend GraphQL API server. So with that, welcome everybody. Here's Vilva, and tell us something about yourself. How are you involved with Redwood.js?
Oh, hello, and thanks for having me here. I got associated with Redwood.js quite early. It was the early times of lockdown, and I was more active on Twitter, of course, during those times. And that's when I got to know about this awesome project called Redwood.js. And when I just went in, I started liking everything. The ideology itself was so cool. And one of the core contributor, Peter, I follow him and he follow me in Twitter already. So I just sent him a ping asking for talking about a new idea. In Redwood.js, currently they have web and API. Web is for front end and API is for GraphQL backend. I thought, why can't we have something called React Native? And we started a discussion. That's when I came to know they have a theme called Sites. So what a site is the sites can allow you to add multiple things like web and API. They were already working on some framework called sites, which will in future let you add React Native, Electron, and whatever you want, maybe VR AR as well. That's when we started the conversation, and he asked me if I want to do a POC on it, and I happily took it up, and we started working on. Now the Redwood community is huge, but when I was there, probably I was in the top 20 or 30 people associated with Redwood back then. And
Very cool.
And I started working on the React Native POC. I actually done it like 90%. I was done. I even showed the demo in the local in their community meetup.
Mm-hmm.
But then I committed the code, but I never pushed it to GitHub, and I lost all the code. So then I went into hiding from Redwood community for quite some time. I haven't attended any of their meetup after the code is lost. But anyway, React is their very primary thing at the moment. So I'll redo whatever I did it again, and probably I'll do it in future. That's how I got into it.
That's a heck of an adventure right there.
Yeah.
It's always a bit painful when you lose a lot of code you've been working on. Oh, geez. So, speaking of that adventure, then you wrote a blog entry recently for that we've posted on the Hasura website, and everybody can go out there and navigate to that. We'll make sure to put the link up here in just a second. Sure. But you want to kind of walk us through and talk about what you've shown in the blog entry.
Sure. So the first thing about Redwood and Hasura is both are awesome tools, and both are my favorite upcoming tools where I see a big potential and a huge future out there. First, let me talk about Redwood. Redwood is like a opinionated full stack framework. And it, of course, as you all might know, it brings Jamstack to the full stack world. That's their motive. And they have a clear set of choices and clear set of rules for using their apps. And for the front end, they use React with Apollo. And for backend, they use Prisma for GraphQL. It's super cool, of course. I love to use it as Redwood alone itself, because I'm more of a front-end person than I'll say myself as a front-end focused full stack developer. I enjoy working in the front end a lot. So in that note, when you look at Redwood.js, they have so many things for a front-end developer to be productive just from like 5 or 10 minutes of setting up the ecosystem for any new project. In that way, they give us like Next.js, they also generate pages, and they also give us access to the routes and all the stuff. And what they have other thing is like they have a concept called cell. That is what more interesting. When you generate a cell, it creates you a component, with preloaded stuff. I'll be showing that in the code with some preloaded basic boilerplate for a component. It creates stories for it. It creates tests for it, basically. Basic test and basic story. Story since for storybook. And also, if you want to set up authentication, they support a lot of things. Auth0, Netlify, Firebase, whatnot. They support so many things already. And they also let you write your own custom auth client as well. By this way, they let us abstract all the complexity out of a user. So, for instance, say if I have to have develop a new product, all I need is Redwood.js. I download it, I use it, and in the backend as well, they let me create GraphQL with Prisma, not in a very hard way. It's just easily configurable with their setup. So most of the complications abstracted out, and only the developer has to focus only on the business logic and the screen flows and maybe the CSS and UI stuff. Except that all the other things are taken care of Redwood easily. And uh, one more beautiful thing I like about Redwood is it is highly futuristic. They have a clean roadmap on what they will be, how they will be, and if at all they complete the concept of sites of React Native, of Electron, maybe VR and AR as well, then Redwood will may not be the go-to framework for a very big company or a company at scale, but Redwood will be for sure the go-to framework for any startup, or say if you want to create an MVP, you'll blindly go for Redwood.js, because in a very short amount of time you can develop a full-fledged product. And I guess Redwood is there already, and they even have the potential to be the next React, in my opinion. So I became a big fanboy of Redwood.js, and already I know how it works internally, how quality they are writing their code. And in fact, from the beginning, they are supporting VS Code, they are supporting extensions and all the other stuff which will help people use it better. So I was just flattened with Redwood already. And coming back to Hasura, like why before going to Hasura, that's one thing why I wanted to use Hasura with Redwood.js. The first reason was Prisma is cool, no doubt in it, but again it's kind of a manual work. Yeah, even if it's Prisma and Redwood takes up some of the work away from the developer, and even if it takes care of deployment and other stuff in naturally out of the box, but still it's a work for a developer to determine few things and to do some coding. Whereas Hasura is like instant GraphQL. I love Hasura. Like I haven't used Hasura in production yet. Like my company haven't got into Hasura yet. We are still in early stages of GraphQL. But I have used it in a lot of side projects, small projects, and any demos. I go for Hasura. So already I'm a fanboy of Hasura, and I one day it just struck me that why can't I use Hasura with Redwood.js? That's how this whole processor everything sparked out, and I started exploring or working on it. So that's what I have spoken about the problem. And of course, why Hasura? Any front-end engineer would love to work with Hasura because of its easy go easy go development. And if you see, my most favorite feature of Hasura is the dynamic conditions. Like you don't have to mention a field in GraphQL schema in the backend to query based on that field. That's my most favorite thing. And
Right.
and sometimes it makes the code bit unreadable when there are multiple conditions. And I have even created a tool for it called HQL tag, which lets you write code easily. Maybe I can show you that as well.
Sure. Is that out on GitHub?
Yeah, it's on GitHub. It's on npm.
Very cool. Yeah, I was going to say I'm a bit biased, obviously, but yeah, I find Hasura super easy to get up and running quick.
Yeah.
I usually don't even create databases beforehand or anything. I'll just do them on the fly because it's so easy to do with the Hasura console and everything. So I often just do them in the demos.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Hasura is like easy to start any even a very complex backend, and it lets me quickly be productive. I don't have to think a lot about my fields, about my things. I can always go and add my fields. I can always go and change my order, and even for querying, I don't have to think a lot. All I need to do is list the required field, and I will query like this. So normally we write Hasura query like this, where we mention the field name, then whether it's equal to or greater than the value.
All right.
With GQL tag, with HQL tag, import GQL from HQL tag, you can write like this: ID underscore equal, and you can pass the value. Quantity underscore GTE, and you can pass the value. Likewise, it supports both for querying as well as sorting.
Nice.
Either you can pass for category order ascending, or you can pass either ORD or underscore order. Both supports, and you can pass ascending or descending. So,
nice. So is it just concatenating basically the column name with the type of check you want to do, and then giving you that as an option?
Yes, exactly.
Very cool.
So it works on ASTs internally. So end of the day, Hasura gets it in this format, but for the front end, for the client side, you can write it in this format. So
I like that.
Already I have a huge affinity towards Hasura, and I wanted to use Hasura with other awesome tool I love, which is nothing but Redwood.js. That's how this blog or this idea came into picture. Cool. Now, coming back to the walkthrough of the blog, building a Hasura backend, I probably, do you want to take this up, Adran? Like, or like, is it like, do you want to explain this more in detail on how to build a Hasura backend or something, or we can skip this part? Hello? Probably you're on mute.
Yeah, just keep rolling. We'll definitely cover that in the future, and
Sure.
maybe even on the tail end of the stream, we'll take a look a little bit at that. But yeah, just keep rolling with the example.
Sure. So this one, building a Hasura GraphQL backend, there are many awesome tutorials in Hasura's blog. People can visit there, and I have chosen to use a certain demo app which Hasura has already built. It gives me the data about superheroes. So this is the backend I decided to use, and when I call this API, I get some dummy data of superheroes, but it's actually a working GraphQL API. So this is what I'm going to use for the demo purpose and for my backend. And
Nice.
then for creating a new app, new Redwood app, probably what I can do is probably I can run it right now, like do a live coding right now, maybe following this blog.
Yeah, sure. Let's try.
Yeah. Since this everything, okay, we can try that. I have a demo code here, but let me start a new project.
I always love doing new projects, because then if you run into any debugging needs, you can just do it right there on the spot live.
Yeah. So I'll create a new terminal in the folder. Yeah. Oh shit. Let me minimize this. Okay. Let me go through my blog step by step. So it's very easy to bootstrap a Redwood.js app. It's as same as our create React app kind of stuff. So let the app get loaded. Or should we wait for the node modules? In the meantime, can we talk about something else?
Sure.
Okay, so maybe I can talk about the authentication, other advantages we have in Redwood.
Oh,
so
I have a question for you about that, which may seed the conversation here.
Sure.
So with the authentication, you mentioned Redwood has a lot of like kind of easy to integrate things for Auth0 and other frameworks like that.
Yeah.
In the context of Hasura, for example, it integrates also from the server-side API perspective with Auth0, Okta, things like that.
Yeah.
So when you build out a Redwood application, is there a way to kind of manage those things so you kind of like keep your integrations in one spot, or like do you need to keep them separate for server versus client side and things like that? Like what's the thinking when you do this integration, even though you've got like you're using both for the Redwood and the Hasura side Auth0 for example, and like just how does that managed from that perspective?
Like if you want to do it with JWT, it's straightforward. It's end of the day Apollo client here. So here I'm passing the URI. Along with this, within the header, I can pass the JWT token, and
Gotcha.
it's very straightforward. But if you want to create a proper client, say for Hasura, then they have a example. Let me show you. Yeah. So here, if you see, this is how you are supposed to create a new client. You can use under the hood, you can use any authentication backend or any client, authentication client. Only thing is your method name should match here, like logout. So if you are able to match these things and add the authentication, like create a custom client for your authentication, it will again naturally support out of the box. It will support Hasura as well. Probably this
Very
can be
cool.
a good thing. Like maybe I can create a authentication client for Hasura.
Sure.
And open source it. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. Maybe in 1 or 2 weeks I'll get some time. I can see into that. What is it? Shit, I didn't. Okay, so if it's time consuming, probably we can go on to the demo itself instead of.
No worries. What was the issue there? Was it not using the right version of
Node?
Node?
Yeah, like I didn't switch NVM to 12. So
yeah. Do you have like 6 versions of Node on your machine? I've run into that scenario before.
Different projects work in different versions, so
yep,
it's kind of messy at times. And most of the times I waste my time waiting for everything to complete, and then I get an error on my face saying the Node version is not compatible.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
So I see there just from the message, it looks like it uses Webpack and other things. What are some of the overall architectural pieces that Redwood uses to provide all this simplification around building an application?
So they have a core, like if you see the structure, they have some packages. Like it's kind of monorepo types, and for the initial setup, they just have a template which they copy into it. They have a separate template called RedwoodJS, create RedwoodJS template or something. Create Redwood app. So this is the template. And if you see, this has the exact structure what is being copied into this web API. All the data which is being copied is from this template. So when you set it up, when you set it up, it just copies the entire template. But then after the initial setup, all the other communications are done through CLI. All the other commands are run through the CLI. They have a CLI which executes different things based on our needs. And also, I forgot to talk about forms. You don't have to manually create many form elements here. They have an abstraction over HTML forms, which can be used directly from Redwood, and they take care of many things internally. Probably all you need to do is change styles if you want to, and it solves all the other problems we generally have with forms.
Cool.
Okay, this is done. So yeah, this is my fresh Redwood app. So first step is I am going to use Hasura, so I don't need Prisma. I'll delete this API folder.
Okay.
because API is for backend and web is for frontends. I don't need a backend here because I'm going to use Hasura. I deleted that folder. Second
Yep.
step is to generate a page. Probably I'll move this here. I'll go to my blog. So now we have bootstrapped a new app. Second step is to generate a page. I'll generate the page called superhero, and this slash means the route. If I want this in a separate route called superhero, then I can add a slash before and add it as superhero. But I want this particular page to be my root because I don't have a root yet, so I'll leave it as slash and
Okay.
it. Oh, what is this? Huh. Strange, eh? Ah, I see. It's throwing an error saying it's the API. Yeah, that should be a folder called API.
Maybe it just needs just the folder.
No, I don't know if there was any recent change in Redwood because I removed API in my demo and it completely works. Okay, then probably it's time to stick with the demo for now. I don't want to go and explore what's the error right now, so I'll stick with the pre-built demo.
Cool.
Maybe Redwood people read the blog and they made API folder to be a mandatory one. So yeah, here if you can clearly see there's no API folder, only web folder is there.
Yeah.
And I when these two folders, fatal error or not found, are the defaults, and superhero page is the page which is being generated because of the command which I used, yarn generate superhero.
Right.
And if you see for superhero page, they have automatically generated a story as well as a basic test just to render. And this takes care of all the basic necessity for any page or for any component. And
Mm-hmm.
superhero page used to have some stuff which is like a generic thing. Oh shit, that's me. Yeah, which is like, it used to look like this. It
Right.
imports link and routes from Redwood, and then it has a heading and then some URLs. So this is the superhero basic template of Redwood for any page. And then now let's go and set up Hasura. So end of the day, what is like Hasura for us is a backend, but for a front end, Hasura is nothing but a GraphQL URL. It's not anything else, right?
Right.
And when you go through the source code of Redwood, I guess it's within web source components. Yeah, Redwood provider. If you see here, it is the Redwood provider. It's a component within Redwood. What it does is it has an internal GraphQL provider, and it gets something called GraphQL client config. This
Mm-hmm.
GraphQL client config comes from the props, and it passes it to GraphQL provider. And when I go to GraphQL provider, this is a cool feature. If you see internally, it is nothing but Apollo provider, and it creates a client with the config which we have passed as props.
Mm-hmm.
So this gives us, of course, the initial decision I thought was they take the Apollo client variable from the window object, window.redwood API proxy path. So I thought initially we can change the window object, but I thought it's not required because if you see the structure, they have a URI, they have a cache, and they have expanded the remaining config. So now if we pass a new URI, obviously it will override the old value. So it was more cleaner than going and changing a window object. That was my opinion. So this, if you come to our code which was generated in index.js, you will find a Redwood.js. So initially it will be like this.
Mm-hmm.
It will be like this. All I did is add a GraphQL client config, which is a allowed prop, and within which I passed my URL. And if you are going to do it with a AWT, you can do like this, or headers
And just add headers, yeah.
and auth token, and you can just directly pass on the JWT here, and it will definitely work with that. So this is for JWTs, but for other say if you create a custom client for a custom authentication client for Hasura, you have something called auth provider from Apollo. Sorry, from
okay.
Redwood. You can pass the client to the auth provider. So these are the two things required for authentication. So after setting up the GraphQL, so this is the whole setup. Now Hasura is set up, and Redwood is set up, and we have interlinked both Hasura and Redwood. Let's go to the next step. Yeah, that I was just talking about these pieces of code, which I showed you in the source code.
All right, right.
And then here, this is where we add the URL. And also one more thing here is routes. Shit. They generate a new file called routes, and Redwood by default gives you a private route. So you can import it, and you can directly start using it. You you don't have to worry about creating even a private route for your application. So
Gotcha.
you can give a path, something, and then to make it private, like if it's private, if you're not authenticated, it will not work. But you can also pass another prop called unauthenticated, and you can pass it. You can give the redirect URL. So if you give unauthenticated and slash, and if this is the private route, if this doesn't, like if you're not authenticated, it will redirect you to slash. As simple as that for handling authentication as well.
Gotcha.
After this, the next step is generate a cell. Cell is the component level. So when you generate a cell, it's a command like yarn rwg. These are all short forms. You can also run yarn redwood generate. Both works. Cell and then cell name, a name for cell name. It creates a component something like this. Export const query, GraphQL, like GQL, and it has a dummy query, and it has a loading state, it has an empty state, it has a failure state, and a success state. Now it just returns the string here. What we will do is we'll just go and make the changes as per our needs. So the cells will be created under component, and we can have the cell here. If you see here for a cell, it creates a cell, it creates a mock. So if you see here, initially it generates this data. So based on that structure, it creates a mock. Of course, when you change the structure of the query, you need to update it, but I did not update it. And it has storage generated for all the states automatically. I didn't write this code. And it has tests generated for all the states automatically. This way, it's super cool to make sure at least your component is not breaking without even writing one single test by yourself.
Very nice.
Yeah, and
I'm a big fan of testability.
Yeah, it's so cool. And with the query, I just modified their query with the query which I require to be passed, and I have created a simple list component where I'll iterate through the superheroes and I'll display their name and their team. So these are the only two small changes I made. I left other things to be the same, be it loading empty or failure states. But of course, you can add a custom loader and do all this other stuff here as well. So that's it. Now we have created a bootstrapped Redwood.js project. We have used Hasura backend. We have integrated both Hasura and Redwood, and we have created a component which will make the call to actually which will execute the query and get us display us the data. Now we can run this. Oh, I forgot the command to run it. Yeah. So it's already in 12. So I'm just running yarn Redwood dev. It will start my dev environment.
Gotcha. So while that's running, and before we actually know the answer, I have to ask. So
Yeah.
Marvel or DC superheroes?
Marvel.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, we got the data from the pattern.
Oh, there's Wonder Woman and Batman though. So you are inclusive of some DC superheroes. We got everybody.
I love both, but if you want me to compare
Pick.
my love for it, I'll prefer Marvel over DC.
Yeah. We're in the same boat then.
Yeah.
I love some DC characters, but if I had to pick.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Yeah, because I love Iron Man more close than other superheroes, so I need to support Marvel more than DC. But of
Yeah.
course, I love Justice League and all the DC comics as well. Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So
Excellent.
cool. So we have done this. That's it.
Very cool.
This is the way to integrate and do stuff. And as a bonus, this is something which is for a local dev environment. I don't have the extensions installed, but we have a VS Code extension for Redwood, which works based on this GraphQL.config.js.
Mm-hmm.
So, like for your type generation and all the stuff. So by default, it will point to your local API folder. But since we are using Hasura, we can pass that URL here as well. With that, we are good to go.
Nice. Very cool. So what's some of the demos that you've been putting together? You mentioned you use Hasura to put together a lot of your demos and stuff. I'm curious what else you've been working on and everything.
The recent thing I was like for all my tech talks, mostly I talk on topics of GraphQL, like schema stitching, cache management, and all the stuff. For everything, my backend always stays Hasura. That's one thing. And there was one product which we were building during Corona for NGO organizers, but unfortunately, we couldn't complete the project because those NGOs weren't able to give some data because of some legal issues. Like the data was, we weren't able to store the data in Asura, but we were building a product for NGOs to buy masks, the protection masks in bulk and distribute it for people. So we were building it, but unfortunately, it never went live. And there were small here and there projects. Now, recently, we are building a project called OSS Puppy. So this project is like lets you manage. It's for open source developers, and it lets you manage OSS stuff. Like if you are a sponsor, like if you need sponsors, say I have a open source project, and if you want to sponsor me, and I'll be giving you some privileges. Like if you are a sponsor, I want the issues created by you to be labeled as differently, and I will want to give access for you to one few private repos I have. So these are few things which I would like to give you as a sponsor. And to manage this, we are building a tool. All you need to do is create a profile there with your GitHub, decide what to do for what tier, what you want to do, and then you forget it. If any new sponsor comes, automatically he will receive a welcome email with specific URLs which you want to share with them, probably a Calendly URL for booking your appointment with you. So like this, we are building a product. It's still under construction, but we are trying to use Hasura there as well.
Very cool. Hello, Rudix World. Welcome to the stream. If you have any questions for myself or Vilva, please ask. We will do our best to answer questions.
Let me stop sharing, or probably you can.
I was going to ask too. Do you want to that project? Is it out there public already on a repo that people could check out, or
the demo project? You mean?
No, the one you just mentioned. for the sponsorship, the GitHub sponsorship stuff, and managing that?
Nope, not yet. We have kept it private. Still is
Okay.
section, but we will make it public. It's going to be a OSS project.
Cool. Okay. And that one's using Redwood and Hasura and everything too?
No, we are not using Redwood there. We are only using Hasura because it's going to be a sleek project. Only 3 screens and a small components. It's not going to be a very big project. So.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Let us know when you go officially open with it, and
Sure.
We'll have you on again. We can talk about that and check it out.
Perfect.
Cool. Anybody have any questions or comments? Let's hear. We got a comment somewhere. A hello. Nothing in particular. So I guess everybody has it figured out. They have mastered it already. That easy.
Or maybe they never understood what I spoke.
Oh no, I think this evening I'm going to actually sit down myself and work on some Redwood stuff. Awesome. And just like go through some of the sample apps, and I'm going to wire up your demo too myself. Awesome. And then probably extend and elaborate on that, because I have my own little project that I've been kind of building as a demo. It's a demo project, but it's also going to be functional, and it's restoring logistical information from logistical systems around the world for like freight shipping, rail shipping, air shipping, etc. And just kind of so you can get an idea of like how many companies are out there and networks and how all that interrelates, and then how you can look at data. And it's just like a great real world use case to show all the information with. But I've been needing a front end, like a nice front end framework to get started with. And while I have rambled, it looks like we have some questions here. So Tarpier on Twitch says, I saw the blog post before. Thanks for that. I was wondering, can you use the Redwood type definitions also with Hasura?
Theoretically, it may be possible, but I guess when you choose that path, it will bring you more complexity. Like you may not like it because everything is tied up with internals of like now I'm ignoring the entire backend path of Redwood, and I'm using my own backend, so it's simple. But if you have to continue using their backend and use it for Hasura, then I'm not sure how much it is feasible and how complex it can be.
Gotcha. So, and then Digital Huxley on YouTube, I'm going to come back to your question in just a minute, because I'll show you, I'll get Vilva to answer that, and then I'll actually show you some of the console. We'll go through a little bit of a demo with Hasura itself. Travomic on Twitch says, it's fun to watch. I'm a fan. And says, basically, great pattern.
Yeah.
And loves how the mock test and story pattern works. And yeah, like we were saying, we're both a big fan of that too, Travomic. And then let's see here. Oh, and also gives you a shout out for HQL tag. Thanks for that. It's definitely going to use it. So let's see here. And Rudix World then says he's trying to do multiple requests. How to avoid the error, cannot merge fields with different arguments under the same alias. I'm not entirely sure what that error message.
Too broad. Probably we need to debug it.
Yeah, probably have to step back and look at that.
Yeah.
So keep asking questions, and we'll get back to those. I'm going to show a little bit of, well, actually, Vilva, what Digital Huxley asked was, what is the advantage of using Hasura instead of Prisma with Redwood.js? Would you answer that? And I'm going to spin up a little demo to show them here.
I'll share my opinion, and then you can take it from there. In my opinion, both are awesome tools. Like Hasura has its own powers and Prisma has its own powers, and it definitely depends on use case. With Prisma, it's again, like as I said, I'm more of a front-end focused full stack developer. So with Prisma, again, I need to work on some schemas, everything with the backend, and I need to maintain that. But with Hasura, it's going to be super simple. I actually don't have to do. In fact, I knew few product managers who built backend for their companies using Hasura. So probably I'll see that as the advantage. Easy maintenance and even authentication out of the box. They have this new thing with cloud feature. They have real-time subscriptions. Everything is super cool. So that's what I'll say.
Cool. So here I'll I'll walk you through and show you a little bit real quick. Let's see here. Actually, I shared your screen. Bear with me as I practice my StreamYard professionalism here. There we go. There's my screen. So here, this is the Hasura cloud. You can go out and you can get a Docker container of this, or you can deploy to Azure or AWS. You can basically deploy Hasura wherever you want or need it, locally or out on a cloud or whatever. I'm using the Hasura cloud. It's a quick and easy way to get up and running with an API backend. So right now it shows one of my other existing databases, Logistics Core, which is that thing that I just talked about a minute ago. But if I wanted to create a new project, you just click New Project. We'll name it, let's call it the Redwood.js DB. And I'm going to pick the free tier, region, which is US East. Then I'm going to pick a database. And one of the beautiful things is if you have a Heroku account, you can just pick that database. Or if you have a database somewhere else, you can just point it at that. All you need is the actual Postgres URI, and you can put it in here under this section. But I got the Heroku one now, which I think I uncached it. So anyway, I'll create another one. It's that quick. So then click Create Project, and I now have Hasura backend API and everything's set up. This is my API endpoint, and in just a second or two more, it'll say Launch Console, or it'll show Launch Console, and then we can click that and get directly into the console and start working with it. There we go. Oh, nope, it's still spinning a little bit. There we go. So then Launch Console brings you up to the Hasura console itself. Again, there's the API endpoint. And this is where you can, this is a GraphQL IDE interface. So once you create some initial schema and everything in your database, you can just type in your GraphQL here, which we'll look at in just a second, and just go to work here. And then you can even use Code Exporter to get some code examples and things like that. Or you can use, whatever tool you have, Postman or something like that, to write your GraphQL queries. But some of the real power of Hasura is under the Data tab, where when you click this, you can just pick a schema, or let's create a new schema and say new sample. Create that. Then I'm going to create my tables in that new sample schema. You could just use the default one if you wanted to. Create table. Let's create a table of names. People. I'll put in an ID. It has the types and everything that are available in the database, and a lot of the functions, etc., are available. So like as you type, those pop up for you. Here's text. And for this particular database, since there's only going to be a few people, and by some crazy happenstance, we'll say everybody's name is going to be unique. Of course, we know that that doesn't happen in the real world. And then let's do a timestamp, just because it's nice to have a timestamp. There's the functions. I'm going to use the now function. Then pick the ID as the primary key. And then I'm going to add the table. There we go. So now I have a people table. If I go back to the GraphQL, you can see that the pertinent entities and elements are available in the Explorer. So you can actually go and look here at these things, and it'll pop open a query into the GraphQL text space over here. And let's do ID, name, and stamp. Whoops, put a little too much in there. And then I can run it, and there's the query. Now, if I wanted to do a mutate, or mutation, I should say, let's get rid of this part. Here, mutation, open, close brace. Over here, you see your insert, updates, and deletes, pertinent again to the database table that we just created. So let's add a new person with the insert function here. We'll give them a name. And let's just say me. and we'll give it the return subfield here. Control space gives you the autocomplete, so it pops up and it gives you, options that you can pick. So I want to know few fields when it returns. I want the ID and I want the stamp. Since the database is going to generate those using those database functions, I want those returned to me so that I can then take, from the client side perspective, other actions using that ID or maybe the date stamp, if something else needs to be done. And I can then attach other data that's related to it by the ID. So run that. It's added, and I've added myself, Adrian Hall, and the ID and stamp are this. So then we'll pretend there's billions of people in this database. If I wanted to now just write a query using the ID, I can do this. New sample people. And I just want name. And I'm going to do where ID equals that. I'm going to run it, and there I am. So that's how easy it is to get up and running. You can do all of your database creation of tables, and you can do your relationships. You can connect your relationships. You can also connect to, if you have more than one GraphQL API endpoint or more than one database or something, you can connect that via the remote schemas tab here. We got actions, a whole bunch of other features. So super easy to basically manage your whole backend that's available to your Redwood.js application or whatever you're building. Just from this, basically, you can manage the whole situation, which is great. So that is why I would also say that it's a great platform to build your backend on, and it gets you started really quick. So it looks like we have another question. Oh, and we have a spam comment too. I'm gonna have to fix that. Let's see. Rudix World says, I'm using Apollo React hooks. Since Hasura is naming the query same as the table name, I cannot query the same table name more than once. Why would you not be able to query the same table name more than once? I'm not sure I catch that. Does that, do you understand that question, Vilma? Oh, you're on mute.
No, I just couldn't imagine a situation of
data.post.map. Oh, are you saying because like there's going to be the conflict of names within the namespace? I mean, you could use the JavaScript capability to assign different variables and then assign them in at different points.
Yeah.
And then you'd have.
You can also use destructuring. Like when destructuring, you can assign a new variable name.
Yeah.
For variables.
So that might be an option. I mean, there's definitely a way to work around it. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I guess if this is the issue, I don't guess it's specific to Hasura, but it should be an issue with like if the backend is created with the same names, then even in it doesn't matter what the backend is, we need to have a workaround for this.
Yeah, and there's other ways that you could tweak some of that or change it to if you needed to. You don't specifically have to do it exactly like I showed you. This is just the quickest way where you go in and you just take the thing that's generated as is. There's other things you can do to modify characteristics of the API endpoint so that you get things back exactly how you want them and things like that.
Yeah.
How about the pricing that you provided? I'm going to presume you're talking about Hasura. Feel free to get in touch with me and I will get you that information, but I don't immediately know what it is. The pricing on the website, there's the free tier. So there's up to, basically you can get up to like 5 API servers running. So you can get multiple API servers running. It largely depends on like how many free database backends you can get running too. But beyond that, click on the paid pricing and it'll show the tiers and such. But we also have like the on-site option, like if you want to have us manage your deployment out to the cloud, etc. So those things are very much depending on what exactly the scope of it is that you're wanting to deploy. So get in touch with me directly. You can ping me on Twitter at Adrian. You can ping Hasura HQ, and someone will definitely get that information to you ASAP. So cool. I think we have covered pretty much all the bases.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody has any more questions, we'll hang out for 30 more seconds. Some of the things just to mention coming up soon. If you go to the Hasura website, which I'll pop up here in just a second, and you go to the events page, which is, here, I'm going to post it in chat. Also put up a little banner here real quick. You go out to this page. You can check out what we got coming up. We've got webinars coming up. We have other events, office hours, community calls, all great events, all specifically catered to how you want to ask questions or get information, or even get involved with the Hasura project itself. It is open source, so there's a lot of things that you can do to get involved however you want to. So, and of course, the same thing with Redwood.js. So if you go out to, what is it, RedwoodJS.com, or is it RedwoodJS.org?
.com.
Oh, it is .com. Okay. Yeah, so if you swing out there, then you can check out Redwood.js bringing full stack to the JM stack. I feel like I should do voiceover sometimes whenever I say stuff like that. So, demos about relationships. You want to see, okay, I'll tell you what. Feel free to stick around if you want to, Vilva. I'm going to do a quick demo of relationships in that database that I just created, the Redwood.js database, pulling it back up. And let's take a look at that. So we have the new sample people in the, I call it new sample schema. So in the new sample schema, we have the people database. Let's add, we'll go with like the standard kind of example situation here. We'll call it address. And we'll have another one with an ID here. And then and let's say we're going to do a many to many. So people can have multiple addresses, and addresses can belong to multiple people. So what I'm going to do here is now add the people, people ID. And then we'll call this the address field text nullable. And then we'll put a stamp on it too. Time stamp. Now, there we go. ID will be the ID. And now, since we already have the people table, we can pick people and then pick, we're going to go from people ID to the ID of the people table, like that. So people ID to people.id. Save that. And I'm going to add that table with that relationship. Now, if you click on the relationships tab for that particular table, it'll show here that it is a suggested object relationship. Now, the reason it's suggested is it exists in the database itself, but it does not currently exist on the Hasura service as a de facto relationship. So you want to click add, and we'll save it as the person relationship. So that's now available, and the Hasura server in the metadata knows that it's a relationship and will add pertinent information so that when you write GraphQL, you can have those correlative relationships whenever you ask for your entities back. So that's a one-to-many relationship, but let's actually fix it so that we have our many-to-many. Let's call it many-to-many relationship. I'm going to have people, can't spell today, people ID. And I'm going to have the address ID. Like this. And then I'm going to, let's see here, we'll add foreign key address will be address ID to ID in the address field. And then we want to add another foreign key in the people table. We'll go people ID to the ID in the people table. There we go. So we got those two. Oh, whoops, need to pick the primary key. So let's see, I'm going to pick that one, and I'm going to pick this one. Now you want to pick both since it's a many-to-many table, because the two keys together will be unique. But if you picked one or the other, like I was saying, since it's many-to-many, you may have multiple people attached to the same address, or vice versa, same address connected to multiple people. So it needs to be both. It needs to be a composite key as the primary key. So we have all of our primary key and foreign key settings set up for that, and can add the table now. And again, I'm going to click on relationships just to look at these, and I'll add the people ID. And then I'm going to add the address ID. There we go. So then I'm going to go back over to address though, modify, and I'm going to actually remove the people ID column from here, because we don't really have a, oh, I guess I'm not going to do that. Relationship, new sample. No. It's, however, not pertinent anymore because we have the many-to-many table. Oh, and it did delete it. Okay. Not sure what that message was. Oh, it removed this, so now you need to add it back, I believe. Is that what it is? Yes. So we're going to add that one. And then let's go check our people table just to make sure. There we go. We want to get that one. So note it says array relationship. So in the object, it'll come back as an array. When you have like multiple addresses for a person, you'll have an array of addresses. Thanks, Travomic. Have a good day. Catch you next stream. All right. So with all that done, let's go back to the GraphQL. And you can see now, here's the people, many-to-many table, and the address, etc. So I think that answers the do a demo of relationships. And also, Rudik's World, if you join us in the future, we'll be diving even further into that and working with the logistics database, some of the other databases that we use for demos, and that we're setting up actual like reference applications on. So that'll be super useful. Be sure to, depending on your platform, subscribe or follow. On Twitch, follow. YouTube, subscribe. And we will catch you next time and dive into new topics, new technologies. And if you have any ideas about what you would like to learn about, such as relationships, please let us know here in the chat, or ping me on Twitter at Adrian, or you can ping Hasura HQ and just say, hey, it'd be great if you streamed about such and such topic, and we'll get that into the queue. Rudik's World, our time zone is all of them. But I specifically myself stream at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I'm not sure how that translates so well to other time zones, but that's what we have this particular session or show on, is at that time. And we will be adding more in the future, where we'll actually be just going through actual development, like day-to-day development of different parts of reference applications, and sometimes actual open source code, things like that. So you'll see those pop up on the Twitch calendar, and also we'll aim to put notifications up on YouTube. Some of those will be on Twitch specifically, but they'll eventually get posted to YouTube no matter what. So either or medium, whichever one you want to check out, you'll be able to catch any and all the episodes. So again, thanks for joining us, and we will catch everybody next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.